2 of our Springtime Centre Court MBA Festival with Poets and Quants. My name is Matt Symonds, and with my co-host John Byrne, we're sitting down with the admissions directors, associate deans, program directors over 2 days, and gathering all of their insights, their advice on the world's leading business schools and how that can help you with your own journey of personal and professional development. So, we really want you to be able to make an informed decision about the MBA as your next steps. And in the next 45 minutes, you're going to get some great advice from decision makers about how to secure your place in one of those MBA classrooms of a top program. So we'll be following this with a smaller chat rooms, and you'll be able to meet with teams from UNC Kenan-Flagler and from Florida Warrington. Then we move to the program directors of these same schools to take a deep dive into the curriculum, the architecture of the programs. How do they think about everything that's going to stimulate you through the 2 years of your MBA program? And then there'll be a chat room session with the teams from Berkeley Haas and from Tulane Freeman, which gives you a sense of who I'm about to welcome. It's lovely to have Cindy Millett joining us from the West Coast. Cindy is a Senior Associate Director of Admissions at Berkeley Haas. Cindy, love to have you so early in the morning. Thank you very much. Joined by Nicole Willite, who's the Associate Director of Admissions and Student Recruitment at UNC Kenan-Flagler. We have Naz Eranguk. Naz, you'll remember from Centre Court. She holds the record for the most views on a video, well over 250,000. You'll find out why. Naz is the Director of Admissions at Florida and the Warrington School. And Melissa Lytle, the Associate Dean of Graduate Admissions at Tulane Freeman, with a wonderful scene behind you, Melissa. Already springtime is on the way. Perhaps we'll start with you, just to get a sense of Tulane and the Freeman School. How do you like to present the school when you share with other people?
Yeah, so Tulane's located in New Orleans, Louisiana, for those who are not familiar. The program itself and Freeman is a diverse place. In our full-time MBA program, we are happy to say that we have 9 students from 9 different countries. We are a small program, but our city and university are large enough to provide a lot of access and a lot of great resources that make Freeman a great place to do your MBA. We are able, with that size, to deliver unique experiential learning opportunities, and I think that's one of the hallmarks of the Freeman School.
We certainly keep them very busy in the MBA classroom, Melissa, but no doubt lots of cultural distractions in a city like New Orleans.
Yes, absolutely. Lots of festivals, lots of ways to get involved, whether that be art, music, food, all sorts of different languages. So anybody can feel at home here.
Right. Well, we'll be talking about clubs and all of the different things beyond the classroom. But Nicole, at Kenan-Flagler, another top school, again, how do you like to describe the school to candidates or people that you meet?
Sure. So we're based just in the triangle between, we're located in Chapel Hill, which is in the triangle with Durham and Raleigh there. So we are about a couple hours from the water, from the ocean, and a couple hours from the mountains, which is nice, and not too far from Atlanta or DC, depending on where you're trying to go. I would say the rumor I hear about us is called the Nice MBA, and I think that's something that we love to kind of, part of our core values, I would say, would be more around not so competitive, but more compassionate. I think we really love for people to come here and be vulnerable and just have an idea of what you want to do, but really come and explore. And if you're going to make some mistakes, make them in school with us versus going back out into the world and choosing the wrong career. So I think it's a very welcoming. You already have the mixture of the kind of Southern hospitality of North Carolina, and people are so kind here, which I've been here 4 years and I'm still like, when's the other shoe going to drop? Why are people so nice all the time, especially moved from London to here? So no, it's a beautiful campus, really, really kind people. But we prefer to say we're dolphins, not sharks. So definitely high EQ, but not as competitive as some other MBA programs that I've had the pleasure of working for, but really, really great students.
Well, in London, as the royal family knows, rumors will spread. And if the rumor is that you're the nice MBA, let that one spread wide. It's a great word on the
Exactly.
street. And Cindy, it's Haas is nice, collaborative, innovative. How do you like to describe the school?
Yeah, so UC Berkeley Haas is located by San Francisco. So we're about 40 minutes, depending on traffic. So you have access to a lot of different businesses, top 500 businesses. And I think that what's wonderful is that there are a lot of speakers that come to campus. You also have those opportunities to go and work for different companies through experiential learning opportunities that was talked about before. So that's really wonderful. I am a Bay Area native, so I've lived here my entire life. And what I love about the San Francisco Bay Area is how close it is to the ocean. It's close to going to the mountains, to Tahoe, to go skiing. So there's a lot of outdoor activities. It's also a very innovative culture, like you mentioned, here in the Bay Area. So there is that access. I think the other thing besides location is we are the second oldest business school in the country. And so we just celebrated our 125-year anniversary. We were actually founded by a woman, which I think is very compelling. And UC Berkeley is also the #1 public research university. So you have access to a lot of programs, graduate programs, top graduate programs at Berkeley. The last thing I'll say is really, we are very culture driven. So we have 4 defining leadership principles that are really important to us, not only in the admissions process, but our whole community, our alumni are very backed behind these values that we have. One in particular, my favorite one is confidence without attitude, which is very similar to what Nicole was saying, is that we really do think it's important to have humility when you are a business leader and to be able to listen to other perspectives. And that kind of lends itself to our other defining leadership principles of being a student, always learning from others, going beyond yourself, being a public university, and also question the status quo, always trying to do things a different way. So we always value those. And it's important for us when people are considering Berkeley, maybe those are values that they hold too. So coming to Berkeley is a great place for them.
Well, happy birthday. And with a female founder and Anne Harrison as the dean, challenging the status quo. It's great to see those leadership positions. And we've talked about, dolphins and not sharks. What about the gators? Now, all 4 business schools are part of world-class universities. And as for Warrington, as part of the University of Florida, that must be part of the culture of the school. Tell us about it.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you, Poets and Quants for having all of us here today. And, we just appreciate all of those who are listening on today because, this is a great opportunity to learn about all of our great institutions. But, here at the University of Florida, Warrington College of Business, we are located here in Gainesville, Florida. We are just a couple of hours away from a few metropolitan areas. But I think our unique value proposition is that we are in the north central part of Florida. We are literally in a swamp. That's why we call ourselves the swamp. There are gators, luckily not walking.
I see one behind you.
There is one behind me. Yeah, exactly. But, I will say that it is our mascot, but we hold true to this notion of gators helping gators. There are over 500,000 gators globally. We have over 13,000 UFMBA graduates to date. And, at any given time, we have about 800 enrolled MBA students. Now, of course, that's with our full portfolio, but similar to what, Melissa was saying, we tend to stay on the smaller side for our MBA, our full-time MBA program. And that's intentionally done because we want to foster innovative leaders. We want to be able to provide the full spectrum of support to all of our students so that they know as they enroll in our MBA program that we have a strong culture of care, that we have a strong culture of building soft and, those hard skill sets to build an agile, a critical thinker that we know can be a phenomenal Gator and a UFMBA ambassador for years to come. And I think that ultimately, each one of our programs, we have a varying portfolio, but recognizing that here at the UF Warrington College of Business, we have a wide variety of ways in which one can get an MBA. But I think that the values of what we have to provide in terms of supporting our students, in all aspects of the student life cycle and the alumni life cycle starts even now as a prospective student. And I know we'll go into that in a little deeper dive here momentarily, but I think that for us, being that philosophy of Gators helping Gators is something that is really near and dear to our hearts, because it really goes to all of the points about being, having that humility and that care and the grit and all the things that it takes to be a phenomenal leader.
Well, let's think about some of those things that it takes to be a phenomenal leader, because you've introduced, challenging the status quo, the agility that you require. So, Melissa, when you're attracting students from all over the world, you mentioned the diversity among the students in the Freeman classroom. You're convinced of their academic rigor to be able to handle the program. But what are some of the other qualities that you look for that can emerge in the stories that they share with you?
Yeah, so we're never just looking for one type of candidate, right? We really are doing a holistic review of our process of the students' files, and that does include an in-depth interview. We want to hear all of the stories that our applicants have to tell, but what we're really looking for is a candidate that has self-awareness, a student who has a plan, and a student who can articulate that plan. But that doesn't mean we're looking for a student with a specific major or specific work experience or even specific career goals. That's how we get that diversity. And our size does mean too that students are also self-selecting to be a part of a group that wants to get to know their classmates. So I would say that we kind of all are in this group here of where our students are competitive, but they're not trying to outdo one another, because each of their goals and where they're trying to go is very different. So they can actually be supportive of one another rather than trying to be cutthroat because they all want the same job at the end of the day.
Right. Yes. So sort of striving to achieve, but doing it and bringing everybody with them. Presumably, Nicole, in such a nice business school and that collaborative spirit, is that something that you can identify in a resume and it's not necessarily captured in a job title? So what might emerge to say, here are some of those core values that align really well with who we are as a school?
Yeah, I would say we really look to that. We have a third essay where students can really talk about anything they want us to know. And I see a lot of really good information come in that essay. It's actually one of my favorite to read. Is just being kind of something that doesn't fit on a resume. They might feel a little bit awkward, kind of maybe bragging about themselves, so to speak, in an interview, but really is a great catch-all for anything that students might want us to know about them. So I really enjoy reading that. But yeah, I think just for us, same thing as Melissa, all those different qualities, really just want to make sure that we can provide the tools and resources that student may need and make sure that we're a good fit for that student as well, and not that they're just a good fit for us. So really want to make sure that people have a plan, just so we know we can support them, especially if they're looking to have a very a solid career once they're finished. So yeah, pretty much along the same lines. But yeah, I think I just really love to hear a bit more. I mean, I like doing the interviews as well and sitting in on those, just getting a different perspective about people's emotional intelligence. And I know students sometimes are nervous about those interviews. Really just looking to see if the bones are there and if people are moldable, because it is our job to teach you quite a few skill sets before we put you back out into the world. So you don't have to be perfect, just kind of moldable as you come into your business program.
Right. Cindy, another of the 4 pillars is being forever a student. Does that imply an open-mindedness, a curiosity, the individuals that really are coming to learn, to explore, to discover?
Yes, 100%. So student always is, you walk into a room and you know that you're not the person who knows all the answers. You're always continually learning and growing. And so that's very important, I think, to any MBA student in coming into a business program, is being able to want to learn and grow. I think in regards to our the way that we evaluate candidates is very similar to what was said before, definitely wanting diversity. We have about 260 to 290 students, so we're relatively small. So that's a really tight-knit community. The part of the application, Nicole, what you were talking about, the essays, they're very important in having kind of variety of essays that we look at holistically in admissions. We added a video essay this year, which was really interesting. And so we asked the candidates to talk about one of the defining leadership principles and how it aligns to them. So they tell a story about, what aligns with them and why that's the principle they identify with. And that has been super fun. It's kind of like an interview, but it's very short. And I've really enjoyed that part of the process this year.
Right, presumably it gets a chance to see the candidate just in how they express, and right. And you're not judging the quality of the background and the video. It really is just what they share. Yeah,
it's been really great. I've really enjoyed it.
Right. Naz, you've read many applications to Warrington. Where do you like to start to just get the sense of the person that stepped back and thought these issues of vulnerability and self-reflection to then share with you?
Yeah, so I think there are multiple ways in which we get to know candidates, right? Whether it be from an info session to coffee chats to it starts from the recruiting perspective. And I think as you start thinking about, that is a great way, even before somebody's gotten to the interview process, to start understanding who they are as a person, how involved they are. But then, of course, once they've applied, we can read their applications. And what I'm really looking for is, what aspects of their file demonstrate, that humility, that empathy, the ability to be coachable. Right. And that's then really what we parse out in the actual interview process, because, to Melissa, Nicole, and Cindy's point, we can learn a lot about somebody, but it's just through conversation that we really understand those vulnerabilities. And in fact, part of our admissions process is that not only do you interview with, myself or one of my staff members on the admissions committee, but you also interview with our career coach. So you have two separate interviews. So we have, in essence, 3 people that are assessing candidates based on, their coachability, their ability to articulate their story and what they're looking to do post-graduation, because we recognize that this is not only an investment on the program. We're bringing about 75, or we have about 75 full-time MBA students every year. We want to make sure that each one of those students is handpicked to be a part of the cloth of our MBA program. But more so, we want our students to know that if we've selected them, that we have ensured that we can help them achieve their post-MBA outcomes. Because it's a big, scary thing to leave, especially in this market. To leave your job and then do a full-time MBA, whether it be for a 1-year program or for a 2-year program. And so as part of the admissions process, it's really trying to understand that candidate. What are they looking to do? How are they looking to grow? How can we help support that? But also, how can they, give us info on how coachable they are and how much they're looking for that personal and professional investment. And, it's one of my favorite questions, Matt, that I love to ask is, what do you do to re-energize yourself after a busy day at work? Because here at Warrington, we, in fact, about a year ago, hired a director of well-being and performance, because we recognize that the best leaders, you can only be a fantastic leader if you give yourself that personal investment to restore your energy and to be able to give back to your teams. And so I think for us, even asking in the interview about the coachability, about how do they restore their energy, how do they work well with others and peers. One of the favorite things that I love to ask in addition to that is, not only how do your colleagues describe you, but how do your friends describe you? How will you interact culturally in this MBA program of a small group of individuals? And so I think all of those things really get to give us insight about who this candidate as a person and how well will they fit here, and how well can we help support them in their objectives, right? Because we know that to Cindy's point, you start in an MBA program, but that program kind of has your back for years and years to come, right? You will forever be a graduate of that program, and so it's really imperative on the front end that you make sure that fit is there early on.
We were talking on day 1 about the stealth candidate, and Melissa, the idea that sometimes you only interact with the candidate as you receive the application, that they've already taken the time to carefully think through and share with you. And a couple of the panelists said it's a shame because, you know, we're not judging them during that sort of outreach and research phase. We'd love to have that dialogue. Is that something that you see and but you'd encourage candidates, you know, don't worry about the polished, finished version. Reach out and talk to us.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Melissa, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so yes, absolutely. That is to me one of the biggest advantages. Again, there's lots of programs out there. If you're just looking at courses or curriculums, that's not going to give you the full range of whether this is a good fit for you. That really does happen in talking to all of the stakeholders, and that includes outside of admissions. You know, we encourage all students, whether they are in the prospect phase or even if they are a committed student, to let us know who you want to talk to, what's going to kind of drive that, don't just trust us, right? Trust our current students, talk to them, trust our alumni, talk to them, talk to the CMC, our Career Management Center, so that you can ensure that they are going to meet your goals and, you know, and that those things are and priorities are aligned. And I think that when you allow yourself that full range of time, and that only happens by doing that kind of at that beginning phase and not just going straight to the application, because that's where things can start feeling really tense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can see that. And Nicole, you talked about the value of that third essay to just share something that perhaps wasn't naturally captured in the resume. Beyond that voice and the insights that it brings, there are other voices that you also turn to, recommenders. What is it that you're hoping that they will share to help you better understand the candidate?
There's a lot of, perfect, little Johnny was so amazing in every way, shape, or form, which that's great. But most likely there was some sort of growth that probably happened in the job. So I would much rather read one that someone, did get some feedback. How did they handle the feedback? How did they overcome that obstacle or learn that new skill set? And how did they grow from that? It's much, in my opinion, when I like to read that someone can really handle criticism, and that they can do better and they can grow from it, and even talk about, how it affected them. Maybe that helped put them on the trajectory that they're on now, getting that feedback and realizing that maybe this other path wasn't a good fit for them, and just being honest about it. So as much as I love reading the glowing recommendations, I like the ones that have a bit more a bit more depth, a bit more insight as to who the person is, right? Because we know that you're going to pick someone that probably is going to speak quite highly of you. Try to pick someone that knows about your goals. I don't know how many times I've read one that's like, so-and-so wants to be, an astronaut. And I'm like, oh, they're not going to do that in business school. So just making sure those goals align and making sure that your mentor, whoever you choose, that you've spoken to them recently, even though that sounds silly, but that's really important. So just a few of those things.
Yeah, and then those areas of growth and how they respond to feedback. If a candidate says to you, Cindy, oh, I want to become a VP at OpenAI, take the most of all of these Fortune 500 companies in the Bay Area. What would your advice be? Because they've got this safe space for 2 years, they can go out of a comfort zone, try new things. So how do you encourage them to explore those new opportunities?
Yeah, it's interesting with that conversation that Naz was talking about with career goals and how important it is. We do work with our career management group now in evaluating candidates on their career goals and whether or not they're realistic, kind of given where they're going. However, we also know that individuals that come to business school most of the time are not going to do exactly what they think they're going to do, because there are all those opportunities that come to you and things that you never knew existed. And so we really do look for students who are flexible. So they know that they may say, this is exactly what I want to do. And that can be a little concerning sometimes because it's not going to exactly happen that way. And in referring to, or going back to the letters of recommendation and looking for weaknesses and areas of growth and how they've overcome those. But I always do look for that flexibility. So I think that's kind of having an open mind about exploring different things and being okay with having your goals may not be exactly what you think you're going to do. And I think that allows people to explore and to be more open, open to different perspectives and open to different experiences. So that's kind of the way that I look at it.
Yeah, Naz, with your admissions colleagues, you meet the candidate first, and then they show up on the first day with their expectations, perhaps some of their inhibitions. You see them go through the program, perhaps that summer internship that will play such a key role for the trajectory that they follow. Can you really see the difference between the candidate showing up on day one, or even the voice in the application, and then the graduate 2 years later?
Absolutely. And side joke, I was like, maybe 4 years later, we'll figure out how to mute and unmute ourselves. So my apologies earlier on, Melissa. But I will say, actually, the thing that I, visibly see, right, is that students, they're anxious or nervous when they're talking to us at the front end as a prospective student. Then they get to campus and they're even more like, eyes big. They're just trying to figure out, like, what did I just do? Like, I just moved here from, XYZ location and I'm being a full-time student. And very quickly, we realize that even though we have I would say a phenomenal onboarding process and a very long-standing onboarding process with lots of, opportunities to come to campus, do admitted student days and do networking socials, virtual and in person for those students coming in. But, I see that once they're here and they realize all of the investments, academic, personal, professional, career focused, all of the engagement opportunities that we really see, we always say you come in as an MBA cohort, you leave as an MBA family. But above and beyond that, it's the sense of confidence. It's the awareness of like some of the things that, that students never even thought that they would, be able to obtain in an MBA program, new level of confidence, whether it be through analytics or new business acumen that they had no, a discipline that they really had no understanding or interest in beforehand. And I think that talks to the flexibility of like giving them kind of a little bit of everything and then letting them digest. And I think that compared to day one, all the way through graduation or as they're going to leave for their internships, it's that confidence that we see time and time again, exponentially become greater. And I think that above and beyond that, there's a certain level of intentionality that I think our students, they start to realize more and more, the more they get involved with what things really kind of are helping them. And so I think, seeing them become more critical thinkers and analytical and better decision makers in all aspects of how they engage with us is something that I think is really remarkable to see from day one all the way through graduation and beyond.
Well, Melissa, if we start with day one and just showing up, coming to campus, because, among your schools, some of you have very accomplished online MBA programs that will offer the flexibility that fits for certain candidates. But to actually be immersed on campus with that family Naz was describing over the 2 years, does it really make a difference in 2024? Do you think the full-time immersion that your program offers?
Absolutely. I think, as Naz was sort of saying, it's because you can take advantage of the full range of resources. Yes, you're going to gain skills in your classes, and that is going to provide you confidence, right? When you're doing those tasks and doing those jobs, whether it's your internship or in your first job after, but it's also the muscle that you've built in networking. It's the muscle you've built in the interviewing and how you're doing your elevator pitch. And that's going to also instill that and bring up that confidence. It's also all the ways, and yes, that also includes doing interviews and presentations on Zoom, just like we're doing here. But there's also the in-person aspect of that and really showing up. And I do think you see a difference, as sort of Naz was saying about the student on the first day and with graduation, there's just a polish that happens. And it's definitely from the confidence, but it's also all of the skills that they've really honed over those 2 years. And I think that the in-person immersion just allows you to take advantage of the full range and all of the centers and institutes where you get to really do all of that here at ours. And I'm sure lots of resources at the other institutions as well.
Right. And between a core curriculum in year one, many elective options that they can then, as they go through the program. Nicole, they're often having this summer internship. And it's not necessarily that that will turn into the job offer at graduation. Some internships don't work out, but that's a really good thing because it helps them to understand perhaps where they best, put to their talent. So what role does the summer internship sort of play in bringing those 2 years together and providing that trajectory for a candidate?
Absolutely, Matt. I think you're right on there. Like I've had quite a few students come back and say that was an amazing experience, but that is not what I want to do. Maybe they saw, the other side of the coin. They thought, I had a student last year came back from living in San Francisco, learning about self-driving cars and really, really cool stuff. Came back and was like, wouldn't trade it for the world. Great experience. I don't want to do that anymore. So I think it's just like we all keep saying, right? It's kind of a trial and error, like Cindy says, about being flexible and coming in and you have your mindset on this one thing and you think this is, especially here, it's consulting. I want to be a consultant. And then by the time they leave, they're opening their own bagel shop, which we had somebody do last year. So I think it's just really coming in and not being afraid. Also, the students are so excited to even get their internships and be a part of all of that they sometimes forget, oh yeah, what do I actually want to do versus what the companies are offering me. And so it's important to try to shut out all the noise from everybody else and what's cool right now, or trendy, I guess I would say. So yeah, I think, like you said, sometimes it works out well. Sometimes you land an offer as you're leaving, which is wonderful if that's what you want to do. But also not get too wrapped up in it being like the end all be all of the program and use it as a learning opportunity.
I can imagine describing a day in the life of the admissions officer, heading to the campus in their self-driving car, stopping off at the bagel store on the way, and it's all already part of the school and its culture. Often, Cindy, I think with rankings, so much focus on salaries, and Haas graduates see a great uptick in their salaries coming out of the program, the responsibilities that then taking on. But in that ROI, it feels somewhat reductive because, you've been talking about the self-confidence that you see emerge, this network. What do we miss when we simply translate ROI into financial dollars versus some of the personal growth that you see happen?
Well, I think there definitely is a desire for individuals coming into an MBA to want to do well, and to perform well and to be paid for it. However, I think that it's not a final destination. It's continuing to grow and learn outside of your job that you get right after business school, because that's not going to be the be all end all. It's this lifelong connections that you have with alumni, with your university, with your classmates, a whole network of people who really are your family. That is what, in my opinion, business school is all about. And that's what a lot of people gain from it. Certainly, there's the trajectory that happens after you get an MBA. That's definitely an ROI, is you do get to have a larger salary and then you get different positions and maybe you change and pivot into something you really want to do. So those are really positives. But I think that it is kind of that opportunity. It's a leadership lab where you're learning how to be a better leader, and those skills will take you and do what you want to do in the most authentic way.
Right. When the Gators come back now, is it, it's great because now I can do business modeling, discounted cash flow has no mysteries for me. 5 years, 10 years, the reunion, if I were to ask them, a memorable moment of their MBA, would it be business modeling? What sort of things might they share?
They might say an operation supply chain management class, and no, I'm just kidding. Maybe, but I do think it's just the experiences, right? It's going to the football games together. It's going to the Springs. It's tailgating together. It's winning case competitions, participating, it's fun because we have one group that won a racing case, and we joke always about these Florida students who win a ski race, right? And you're like, how did that happen? But, I think that it's just all of the fun that we have embedded and I say fun, but it's intentional external fun, right? That really fosters those relationships. When you get to travel internationally, we just had a group of students in Vietnam last week. When you get to go on case competitions, when you come to tailgates, when you go on these city treks, there's no shortage of events that we do, and all of them are to help foster these relationships. And so there's nothing more heartwarming than seeing our students continue to work together. We have one graduate that comes to mind that literally hired like 7 of their classmates, over the years. And I'm like, that is a testament to the fact that, they know what their classmates know. They know how hardworking they are. They understand, their knowledge base and their personality skills, personality traits and skill sets. But then it's also nice to see how our students years later, they still do reunions and they invite each other to their weddings, or they themselves, we find their spouses within the MBA program. And those are types of things that we know this program, is transformative, not just in giving that business acumen. We are changing lives. And the relationships, I think, are really what, sticks with our students for years to come, because change, business is changing, models are changing. Obviously law and supply of demand is not changing, but, everything of how we learn it and the case studies, those are changing, but it's the people that we learn it with, I think, that really make it memorable.
Right. And with the love of your work, Melissa, your passion for the Freeman School, how transformative this experience is, as Naz was describing. But yeah, well, I looked at the website, I attended a Center Court panel. How do you then encourage them to take the next steps to find out, in a sense, what of this transformative power? So, where do they start to find out more about the program?
Yeah, so I would say they can reach out to us. Of course, they can look at our website, so the freeman.tulane.edu website, but also I would say upcoming is Katie Hunter, who is our Associate Director of Graduate Programs and has been working very closely with our full-time MBA. So I would say check out the chat session, speak with her. She's a great storyteller and can really tell the Freeman story. And then, like I said, we can always share emails and things like that.
Right. We have a very international, global audience for Center Court. It would be lovely to show up in Chapel Hill, Nicole, and maybe audit a class just to get a sense of the buzz on campus. So again, connecting with alums, or where do you encourage candidates to start to find out more about the program?
Yeah, so we have a couple of students who do virtual office hours every week for us. We also have digital ambassadors. So we have about 25 digital ambassadors who are on our website, and it's all listed by area of interest and the country they're from. So they're ready and willing to talk to anybody at all. And then we also have virtual office hours with the admissions staff. So twice a week, I'm available for about 20 minutes each to jump on a call with anybody in any stage, just to have a chat. Or sometimes they'll say, I don't know if I even want to do an MBA, and we talk through that as well. So that's completely fine, whichever stage you're in. So we're all ready and ready to talk.
Right. And I know how generous Haas MBAs are with their time, ambassadors of a school that they love. But any advice, Cindy, for the candidate on how to effectively reach out and be very respectful of busy people that are making this time perhaps to then talk to you about their experience? How would you suggest that they structure that outreach and possibly a call with an alum?
Yeah, alumni are very busy people. I think that LinkedIn is an amazing resource in being able to look for alumni and be able to reach out to them. I think similarly, we have Haas student ambassadors and our international student representatives that are able to talk and have office hours. But for alumni, I think being respectful of their time, if you do reach out, making sure that they are able to, they have the time. So I think it's just being really cautious about when you reach out to them. And yeah.
As we look at 2024, the uncertainties of an election year, AI that seems to be changing the workplace, the enduring appeal of the MBA now, has that not gone away? Is it as compelling today as it might have been 10, 15 years ago?
I actually think it's more compelling today, right? Because as things are changing, markets are changing, AI disruptors. There's so many different things that are constantly happening, right? And at a quicker speed, that I think being agile, being a solid decision maker, these are all skill sets that regardless of what is happening kind of, economically or politically, I think that these are all really important skill sets to have. So I would actually argue that today, now is the best time to invest in yourself, to give yourself, the greatest opportunity of transferable skill set. So as things change, as things are evolving, that you're ready to deal with those and still, continue to grow personally and professionally. And I think that an MBA gives you those opportunities to do so.
Well, we talked about women founders of business schools, women deans. Melissa, you're in a very senior leadership role at Freeman. As you're in the corridor and you hear all of the chatter and the conversations at the end of a class, what is it that you love in the work that you do?
The inclusiveness. Like, I think that that's probably the biggest takeaway. We have lots of females in leadership. We have students and faculty from all over the world. And there's just a huge diverse inclusiveness here at the Freeman School and amongst our students. And I think, again, they're always looking to lift each other up. And I think that that's kind of one of the hallmarks of the program.
Right. Well, you're a great role model for others, but sometimes, Nicole, we need those role models, right? To say, well, I'm not the banker or the consultant or the engineer that's been thinking about business school for years and, they've taken their tests and everything else. For the candidate where business school wasn't on the radar screen, and they're only starting to think about it, there's a place for them too, right?
Absolutely. I think people, as they are even considering, it's very scary. Like I think Naz said, even thinking about leaving the workforce, if you have something right now, can be a little bit daunting. And there's quite a few students out there that are not sure, is this going to pay off? What's the ROI for me? What is the job market going to look like in 2 years from now? I'm nervous about that. And so definitely taking the time, having all these conversations with all of us, making those educated decisions. But I think the biggest thing is just to really, if able, to visit the campuses, to meet with the students, to get the feel for it. And they'll see very quickly that there's quite a few students that were very uncertain or unsure of what they wanted to do. And as they step onto campus, they're welcomed by all of us with very open arms. And that no matter where they land, especially with any of us, they'll be taken good care of. So yeah, I think I'd hope any student that they come across would be very transparent in sharing those fears or those concerns that they may have had, because it's a lot of work applying to business school. It takes a lot of time and energy, and there's a million reasons, why you shouldn't, but I promise it's worth it. You have a family not only here on campus, obviously, but like Naz said, a family for life as you graduate with all the alumni. So definitely worth looking into and contacting anyone of us or any of the students to learn more.
Right, a lot of time and energy, but also for all of you, and all of you have the word admissions in your job. You're looking for reasons to accept. So you're looking for the potential in candidates. Is that something a candidate should bear in mind, Cindy, as they put together their applications? You're looking to explore their potential.
Yes, I think that it's a risky proposition, as Nicole said. You're putting a lot of it out there. It takes a lot of time and energy. But we have individuals, it's such a diverse background of the people that we have who apply to the program, and we are looking to say yes. So we have many people who are non-traditional candidates that get into the program. I think being able to think about what your goals are and how an MBA is going to help you is important. But yeah, I think talking to students is a great way to learn more about what the transformative prospects are going to be and what they went through. Because I find a lot of candidates really they take that advice from our students, and it helps them in kind of their application process. Sometimes they don't listen to us with admissions in the title, but the students really have done it. And so I would definitely recommend talking through those fears with them.
And no doubt that's when they see the compassion and the support that all of you described for the classroom. The one final question, inevitably, Naz, how do you re-energize?
How do I personally re-energize?
Yeah, it's your favorite
I come
question
to
for the
campus
candidates. It's
every
only
day.
fair that we ask you too.
No, I love coming to campus. The vibrancy here is fantastic. And, every phone call I get, I actually say that that's a new opportunity to change somebody else's life. And so that actually, is why I encourage everybody, prospective wise, current student, alum, reach out to me. I want to be that person that you can call upon, because as much as it can be long hours, busy hours, knowing that we are changing lives is actually what brings me the most energy.
So viewers, don't be a stealth candidate. You've seen how warm, how encouraging our four wonderful panelists are. We're about to move to 2 initial chat rooms where you can meet with the teams from Kenan-Flagler and from Florida Warrington. Then we're back for a panel with the program directors of the 4 schools, and then another chat session with Berkeley Haas and with Tulane Freeman. But Melissa and Naz, Cindy and Nicole, thank you for such a great session, and that warmth, the encouragement. You love your schools and it really comes across. Thank you for joining us for such a great session.